This Bellator interview was recorded July 5th, 2017. Steve Jewin, MMA Mania.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
Baddest man on the planet, Joe Warren. Always a pleasure. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me again.
And thank you for having another fight here in Thackerville. You're coming back to the site where things didn't go quite the way you wanted against Dantes, but hopefully you're taking that in stride.
Yeah, Dantes, that was a tough loss. That was my first loss that I lost a decision to. But, he caught me sleeping. He was training for me for, 2 or 3 years, and I was fighting nonstop. And he beat me with some footwork. And don't worry, I reinvented myself. We went back to the drawing board, and this old man's got some footwork now, so people are in for some big trouble.
Well, I'm sure you're going to need some of that with Steve Garcia. It kind of seems like he's a prospect on the rise looking to take you out as the old veteran right now.
Yeah, I don't even know. He's the guy. I don't even know his freaking name, man. He's a body in front of me to run through, I think he's a young kid. Up and coming, I'm kind of like Bellator's gatekeeper. If you want to make a name in bantamweight in Bellator, you got to come through me. And, I'm very open and welcome to that. If you want to get your ass beat, then come on in that cage with me and I'll be happy to do it for you. I'm focused, violent, and ready for war, man. I believe I'm reinvented my style of fighting, and I'm excited to impress myself.
I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. But as you said, you've kind of been put in that role right now where people got to make their name by going through you. And that doesn't seem to be an easy way to go because you haven't dropped 2 in a row in, God, it seems like forever now.
Yeah, that being said, I've been doing interviews and I didn't notice I didn't been like win-loss. But, that's the most unpredictable place in the world is that Bellator cage or any cage. You know what I'm saying? It's 50-50, even doesn't matter who you are, that being said, Caldwell, I didn't get to fight that fight. That sucks. I dislocated my kneecap and tore my MCL that first takedown. And that was a bad loss for me. I came back, fought Sherwan Kakai, and then got an opportunity right away to fight Dantes. So, Dantes caught me, man. He caught me, a little flat-footed. Nothing I can say about that. We took care of that. That's not going to happen again. But, I'm not thinking about losses. I'm thinking about pummeling people in the cage right now.
I know one thing you will be thinking about when you step in there with Garcia. You said you didn't know his name, and you might know him when you look up at him because he's got about 6 inches in height.
Yeah, I noticed that. My coach, Mark Montoya, he does the worrying and the watching and the tapes and that kind of stuff. And I've been noticing that all my sparring partners are 6 feet tall. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And he's like, he's 6 feet tall. He's skinny, 6 feet tall. I'm like, all right, no problem. I don't ask questions. I just run through practice, So it looks like he's a tall, up-and-coming kid. It's very normal for me. At least he doesn't have world titles behind him like everyone else does,
That's true. It's actually kind of a refreshing change for you, isn't it? It's like, other than Sirwan Kakai, it seems like you're always fighting champions, either as the champion or as the former champion. Yeah,
this is strange for me. Not being a main event or co-main event, I don't even know how that is. It's fine, but I've heard this in these interviews lately, and I didn't even think about that. It doesn't bother me if Scott's going to pay me to fight in the street. I'll fight in the street. You know what I mean? I just have always been a Bellator family man. I've been part of the Bellator family since the beginning of Bellator. I've been with. It's like my stepdad was getting the job done, but my new dad is kicking ass. So Coker has brought a lot of credibility to the Bellator banner and the brand, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and more fun. And as a spectator, even watching it, it's been a lot of fun to watch Bellator grow and know that I've been part of that growth. So to get an opportunity to get back in that Bellator cage and perform and impress myself, I'm really excited. Anxious and violent.
As somebody who's been part of that family for so long, since the very beginning, as you yourself pointed out, how exciting was that Bellator pay-per-view, seeing where they've come to now to get a big show like that at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, I can remember fighting in like crazy outdoor venues all over the country, and And now to be able to see Bellator sell out Madison Square Garden on a pay-per-view is very impressive and exciting. You know, it just shows that our brand is growing, and that Scott Coker and Viacom and Spike are putting everything they have into Bellator to growth. And you know, it's nice. It's really nice to still be part of the family. You know, and it's nice to see it grow and be as big as what they've always wanted it to. And it's exciting to watch Bellator now. I mean, now people have something else to go to besides the UFC. You know, you can buy a Bellator fight and still see the entertainment and the competitiveness that you see in another pay-per-view.
Did you have any thoughts watching Chael Sonnen go out there and dominate with his wrestling the way he did and think, man, I wish I was on this card getting a chance to do that to somebody too?
Oh, yeah. You know me, I'm always yelling at him. I don't even know. I mean, I think that I'm always fighting like 2 weeks after the big fight. You know, that's what happens. You know, in a main event or holding a card up, you know. I'm honored that they give me the opportunity to, you know, they can put me on a card and still hold the viewership. I mean, that's nice to know. But, yeah, I would love to fight in one of those big Bellators. You know, I've fought in the littlest ones. I'd like to fight in the biggest one. You know what I mean? But that being said, I think I might have to get a few of these wins, get an opportunity to maybe beat the hell out of Dantes again in a rubber match. And that's maybe when you see us on that big card.
Yeah, you might get that because they seem to love these trilogy fights and rubber matches lately. I mean, that's what we got in the main event here is Gertz and Campos doing it one more time.
Yep. You know, I mean, Dantes caught me, man. He caught me, you know, his footwork got me, you know, like I talked to you about before. You know, I'm a different fighter. You know, we went back to the drawing board. We decided you need to reinvent you know, you have to evolve as a fighter these days. And if you don't, you get left behind. So we went back to the drawing board, and you know, this old man turned on some footwork, and I'm a different fighter than I was then. I'm excited to, you know, perform and impress myself out there, and we'll see what happens. You know, Dantes, there's no way you're going to be able to run from me for 5 rounds anymore. We made sure, Mark Montoya and Factory X made sure that I can cut the cage off and I can do some serious damage on my feet. And so I'm just excited to get in there and get back in action again. It's been a few months.
Well, other than the speed and the footwork, what else are we going to see when you go in there with Steve Garcia, other than, as you always like to say, putting a hole through that man?
Yeah, that's the truth. I hate to say it. You know, I'm not going to beat around the bush, man. My main technique is wrestling. That's what I'm the best at. But now people think they can turn and run from me. We solved that problem too. So I'm going to plan on putting this crazy violence into this guy's head. You know, see if it's really hard to train for a guy like me. You can't really deal with the pressure or the violence or the power coming from me. He's a young kid, tall and coming from Greg's camp, but means nothing to me. He's just a body in front of me. So I plan on doing exactly what we talked about, putting a hole through this man and put my hand up in that Bellator cage.
Well, you did mention that he's a Greg Jackson fighter, Jackson Winklejohn. What is your respect level for that team as a whole and the kind of quality of caliber fighters they produce?
Yeah, you know, I have nothing but great things to say about Greg and Winklejohn, man. Those guys they've been friends of mine for years, and you know, I'm honored to take out one of their young guys. You know, nothing bad to say about that team.
It seems like they've had a tumultuous week, though, with a lot of their fighters staying at that hotel in Albuquerque that blew up. That really shocked me when I saw that on the news.
Yeah, I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, there was a huge explosion. I guess they had to rush Alistair Overeem and a bunch of other fighters out of there as fast as they could before the fire got to them. It was crazy.
No way.
Yeah, the hotel just...
That's terrible. I didn't, you know... It's I'm on crunch time. I don't give a shit about the news. The only news I do is my podcast, you know? But I'm telling you, that's terrible. That's their new gym, right? That's upsetting, man. They put a lot of work and time into that gym. Hopefully everyone's okay.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody got out okay, but it was definitely a scary situation there for a little while. And disrupts a training camp, too, when you're preparing for fights in Las Vegas, and then all of a sudden you got to deal with that.
Yeah, I know. A lot of those guys, well, now they can just go to Vegas and train, I think. There's a spot for everybody.
Right. I guess you just hop on that flight to Vegas earlier and get it started a little bit earlier. Get your
That's not that far from Albuquerque.
No, that's true. It's a rather short hop, I guess. So not too far of a travel for you though, for going, from your training camp, getting out of Denver and getting into Thackerville. That's got to be a pretty quick trip for you.
Yeah, very comfortable too. It's a lot of people don't feel comfortable at this. Starting all over again. Chasing a belt again. This is a very comfortable situation for me. I've fought here several times. I'm honored to be back at WinStar World Casino. Great fans. I've fought there. I've won belts, lost belts, submitted people, got submitted. Terrible. Everything's happened to me there. So there's no surprises. You know what I mean? I'm just, it's going to be really, really fun to get back there. A real easy trip, like you said, like an hour flight.
Yeah, and he really is. You're calling it like it is because it's become your second home. I think 5, 6 out of your last 8 fights have been there. I
know, man. They love me there. I just trust whatever Bellator is saying. Scott Coker said they always take care of me. I'm part of the family. I don't really ask questions. If they say you're fighting here, I just fight there. I just, if they tell me they're going to pay me to fight in the street, I'll fight in the street. But it seems to be at WinStar World Casino instead.
Well, at least it's a venue where they're very familiar with you and they love to see you fight.
Yeah.
So can't beat that, and can't beat the fact that you're still out there with this drive and determination to get another world title. So I know it's probably a cliched thing you get asked all the time, but how much more drive do you have in you at this point? How many more world titles can it be?
Yeah, I've only been injured the one time, and that was last year. And that, I recovered from the tore MCL, dislocated my kneecap, tore my MCL against Caldwell, that first takedown. And I was able to recover from that in 3 months or 4 months, and I fought Sirwan Kakai right after that. So, I'm in great shape. I'm smarter, better, stronger than I've ever been right now, So if I'm not slowing down. So, like, if I was slowing down and getting hurt and these young kids were, taking me, then I'd stop. But, me, I fight the best in the world. It's a 50-50 coin flip sometimes in that cage. And, it could have went my way, but it went the other way last time. So this time I'll make sure nothing goes their way.
With this International Fight Week that we're coming up upon, they always have a big Hall of Fame ceremony and induct the fighters that have made a difference in the history of fighting. Do you think there should be a Bellator Hall of Fame, and would you be the first inductee?
Well, I'd be honored, man. I believe that Bellator is such a growing organization, and Scott Coker brings so much credibility to it that now we have unbelievable pay-per-views, and just like I've told you in the past, it's where the cool kids fight, and I've said that for years, and now that's everyone else is figuring that out. If Bellator does, I started Bellator the first season. I started this bantamweight division, and I plan on finishing it. And if they would ever give me an opportunity to be a member in the Hall of Fame, I'd be honored. I'm in a University of Michigan Hall of Fame. I'm in the U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame. And that would just be another accolade that I'd be really proud of.
Well, it seems to me only natural because a 2-time 2-weight class champion, I think you'd have to be on that first round ballot.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see what happens. You're only as good as your last fight, so we got to crush this young kid and see what happens.
All right, well, crushing Steve Garcia is next on the agenda here in Thackerville, Bellator 181, July 14th. But, Joe, before I let you go, please plug and mention any sponsors that you'd like.
Yeah, well, bottom line, always Factory X and Mark Montoya, Phase 4 Athletics and Bob Forster. And, tune into our podcast, man. We've been having a blast doing it. We're Sean Funky and the Baddest Man, and we're on Podcast 1. Shale is the only other MMA podcast on Podcast 1. So tune into Podcast 1, and it's me, Sean Wheelock, and Ben Askren, and it's Sean Funky and the Baddest Man. So tune in, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and hey, tune in for Ben Askren's fights in 1FC too. He had a really great performance in his last title fight. He just totally blew a hole through that man, as you like to say.
Domination, right? It's almost bad. He makes it look so easy.
He does, but that's what great wrestlers do.
He does, and it's not that easy, put it that way.
No, it's never as easy as you guys make it look. But have a really fun fight with Steve Garcia at Thackerville. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No problem. And thank you, Dan, as well.
Yep, thank you, Steve.
You bet.